Hello, good afternoon, and a warm welcome to Saints Live. I'm Kenzie Benali.
And I'm Steve Forbes.
Well, it's a big day ahead for the Saints as they travel to the capital to take on West Ham, both teams sitting 20th and 19th in the league, respectively. So, Steve, there is a lot at stake today.
Yeah, there really is. But it has been the international break, so hopefully our players are revitalised and ready for this challenge up at West Ham. Now, speaking of breaks, our very own Dean Hammond has decided to take a well-deserved one this week. So we've drafted in another Saints legend in the form of Franny Benali and Saints live legend Paul Belverstone. Gentlemen, I hope you're both well. Franny, I've seen you've been completing yet another marathon, but this time you had to get your hiking boots on.
Yeah, all good, Steve. Great to join you all. Very much looking forward to today. But yeah, just over a week ago, we were on the South Downs Way with a group of about 30 plus people trekking through the Downs, going from Brighton to Eastbourne. So yeah, the feet have needed a little bit of a rest the last week, but we managed to raise a nice sum of money for Saints Foundation, which was great.
Amazing, great stuff. And Paul, ready to get back to some Premier League action after that international break?
Absolutely, and I mean, absolutely honoured to be on with Saints royalty. I've got to say, Steve, isn't it nice to have a proper Benali on the show? It's been too long. I've been waiting for this for too long, and it meant, of course, that I didn't have to change the photos in my office for once. Normally, I have to take the Franny ones down and put up some other random ones, but no, on show today. Very happy.
Oh, well, I love that, Belvis. I was waiting for a little comment.
Yeah.
I should have known you'd get it in your first response. But great to have you both with us. Looking forward to the show ahead. But let's not waste another minute. We have got plenty to discuss. And of course, the team news is coming your way in less than 15 minutes' time now. So what do we know already? Well, Armel Bella-Kotchap is, of course, out after injuring his shoulder against Tottenham. Juan Larios and Tino Livramento are also still out. Shea Adams and Mohamed Salisu, though, they're being assessed after both missing their midweek internationals through injury.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's going to be at least one enforced change, Franny, from that 3-3 draw against Spurs. How do you think Ruben's going to approach that? And do you think there'll be any other changes?
Well, I guess that's the disappointment as a manager, isn't it? And as a club, when you have injuries, and especially when you've had the international break and players have potentially picked up a knock or an injury on international duty. I mean, he's going to have to go into this game today with obviously sort of keeping things tight at the back, clearly trying to get the London Stadium home faithful on the backs of the home team would be a good thing from Saints' perspective. But we still need to have that attacking intent and sort of quality within the side. So it's getting that balance right, Steve, I think, between being really solid and tight as a team defensively, and we've seen it under Ruben Sellers recently, but obviously scoring the goals, which is going to enable us hopefully to pick up all 3 points.
Well, Barbers, let's come to you for your thoughts on today's starting 11. You were obviously with us for that excellent comeback draw against Tottenham. You said before that game, though, you were surprised to see Charlie Alcaraz drop out of the side. Do you think we might see him come back into the starting lineup today? And are there any other changes you're expecting?
I think there's a decent chance because, of course, West Ham tend to play three in the middle, don't they? So, the 4-2-2-2 formation that was Ralph Hasenhüttl's preference, that worked so very well against Tottenham, but it maybe needs a 4-3-3 today. Have to wait and see. I mean, I'm hugely impressed with Charlie Alcaraz so far because, of course, he's only 20 years old. He's come over from South America. It takes very experienced players a lot longer than it seems to have taken him to settle into all the differences the Premier League throws at you so far. He's a player who does like to drive the team forward. He looks forward. He passes and drives himself forward. He's often bursting into the box. And I was thinking only the other day that if you compare him to, a little further down the south coast to Brighton, and you think of Alexis McAllister, he came over from Argentina at 20 as well. It took him a good 18 months, 2 years to really establish himself in the Brighton team. Charlie Alcaraz, he's not been 100% every single time he's taken to the pitch, but he's shown some excellent form at times, some real glimpses of proper talent there. So I am a big fan of his, but it's whether Saints stick with the formation that worked so well against Spurs or whether they do look to change it because of the way West Ham are likely to line up. I think the rest of the team, it is all pretty much dependent on on who's fit. I think one player who has to be in the starting lineup, which is a sentence we haven't said for a good couple of years almost, is Theo Walcott has to be starting. I've been so impressed with him. What an attitude, what great quality he has. You'd forgive him, given everything he's achieved in his career. He could be sat in the back of the stands with his slippers on, winding down his contract. He's clearly, having played I think he's only featured in something like 5 of the last 40 matches in the Premier League before Ruben Selles took over. There's clearly been a thoroughly professional attitude shown by him in training, and he must have had a moment when he's rolled up his sleeves and said, "No, look, I can really affect things here and help get my club out of trouble." And what a great example to the rest of the squad and the rest of the club.
Yeah, very much so. Well, before we reflect on that terrific draw last time out against Spurs, let's have a look at the highlights.
They've got every chance of getting something against Spurs today, who are shocking on the road of late. So why not take advantage of that? Longley into feet to Son. Again, he's picked up a great little space and he's found a free man on the right. Here's Pedro Porro. Surely it's 1-0. It is. This time the Spaniard has smashed it high up under the crossbar. So, might be my phone near the thing. As Saints break through on the right. Walcott, low ball. Adams scores. No flag. Saints have equalised within 1 minute of the restart. Fantastic start to the second half for Southampton. Porro, the goal scorer for Spurs, his first Premier League goal, slides it down the right wing for Kulusevski, deep in the Saints half on the right, crosses dangerously to the back post, free header, Harry Kane, Johnny on the spot as you'd expect from him, crosses it right back across the penalty area, back out to Son on this near side, Walcott's in front of him, Kulusevski behind him, the Swede crosses again into a dangerous area, Maitland-Niles does well, and then this volley from Perisic gives him his first Premier League goal for Tottenham. That's a nice, clever header from Walker-Peters, and a good ball from Sulemana out to the right. Now Ward-Prowse can cross this again. Heads go up, Mara gets his head. Walcott! It is 3-2! And Walcott has his 7th goal against Spurs, and the former Arsenal man gets the goal. Last minute of normal time. Corner from the right. Ward-Prowse outswinger. He's going to look for Salisu, who won the header, but he hit it against the defender. He might get another chance. Saints are getting a penalty! Oh, my goodness me! Drama for the foul on Maitland-Niles. Ward-Prowse lines it up. Forster touches the crossbar. Here he comes, and he scores!
Oh, good penalty.
Third time lucky for James Ward-Prowse from the penalty spot. His 7th league goal of the season. Hearts in mouths right until the end. A dramatic comeback by Saints. A great point in the end against Tottenham Hotspur.
Well, Dad, Belver said after the game that he felt the penalty awarded to Southampton was soft, but it was a silly challenge to make. How do you feel about that one?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I guess, pretty fortunate for us, wasn't it? It was very much one of those that could have gone, either way. And the referee was well positioned here. And what Ainsley Maitland-Niles did really well was just get to the ball ahead of Sarr, the substitute for Spurs, and referee had no hesitation in pointing to the penalty spot straight away, and he just gets in ahead of Sarr, doesn't he, Maitland-Niles, and just gets that little touch on the ball. I mean, you have to look at it, even from a number of the angles we're seeing, you still question whether there was contact in the first place or quite how much contact there was. And certainly from a Spurs perspective, they'll be arguing differently to the decision that was given. But, I think this one maybe just shows, when it's slow motion down, that there may have just been that slight contact on Ainsley's leg there. But from Sarr's perspective, I mean, he's just got his eyes on the ball. He doesn't see Maitland-Niles coming from behind him. And he's just had a swing trying to clear the ball. So clearly it would have been looked at by VAR as well. And there was no real decision to think otherwise than the decision that was made by the referee. And it was a huge moment and a big pressure penalty for James Ward-Prowse, and we were all delighted to see it hit the back of the net.
Before we talk a bit more about how that penalty was dispatched by Prowse, we're going to see what the fans are saying watching in at home. We have Julian Ailing-Roos on Facebook, who said, "Come on, lads, we need this." Also, Stuart Reed has said, "Nothing but a win to keep us in with a chance." Janet Harvey, "Come on, Saints, you can do it." Will Mitchell says, "We're winning this today, 2-1 to Southampton." Nana Wan has said, "Camel Dean will score today." Jeff also thinks it's a big game. Samantha Lelliot says just need to keep pressing and getting those goals like we did against Spurs. Lorraine says that she's watching from TN USA. I don't know whether is that Tennessee.
Oh, perhaps,
maybe. Let us know, Lorraine. And also Alan says, come on lads, we need 3 points again. If we can do that to Spurs, then the Hammers should be no problem at all.
Oh, it's always great to hear from the fans tuning in from around the globe. But Belvers, let's get to talking about that big pressure penalty that Dad's just mentioned. I mean, executed beautifully by Prowsey after a few iffy ones. So that showed great composure from our captain.
Yeah, can I tell you a little story about Prowsey? About a decade ago, I discovered that he is a giggler. He giggles at everything. I sat down at St Mary's with him, and he'd played a fair few games then, wasn't entirely a regular in the team, but he hadn't scored a goal in the Premier League yet, and he was itching to get his first. And I asked him about a shot he'd had from pretty much the halfway line against West Brom, I think it was. And he didn't swear, but he said something like, the ball dropped and I just thought, sod it, and I gave it a whack. And then he stopped himself and he said, can I say that on telly? And I said, I don't know. I think it's probably okay, but do you want to do it again? And he said, yeah, I'd better say something different. So then he went through the story again and he got to that moment, the ball dropped and I just thought, and he nearly said it again and he couldn't think of a different way of saying it and burst into a fit of giggles that, no word of a lie, lasted 45 minutes. He left the room, went for a walk around the St Mary's pitch, had a drink, had something to eat, everything, kept coming back, kept giggling. And pretty much every interview then since, even now, we kind of avoid eye contact because he will start giggling again. And the only reason I mention that is because 2 days before the Spurs game, they had a team meeting and they talked about penalties. And because Prowsey had missed a couple, he was asked, are you going to take this one if we get it again? And he said, yes, but I am a bit concerned because it's my mate in goal. If we make eye contact, I might start laughing. He'd taken so many penalties against him in training, even in their back gardens, because they live next door to each other. And I thought it was pretty clever the way, I think it was first of all Sekou Mara and then Charlie Alcaraz, both of them picked up the ball as if they were going to take the penalty when there was all of the sort of the milling around while there was the VAR check going on and everything. And Prowsey just took himself away. He wasn't getting involved in the mind games with his best mate Fraser there. And then when it was the moment, he picked up the ball, he made sure he didn't make eye contact. The way he struck that penalty, you will never see a better penalty anywhere. It went right in the top corner. It was like one of his free kicks. No goalkeeper is ever going to save that. There was mind games as well, of course, because he normally goes the other way. He was trying to psych out his mate in goal. It didn't matter because he put it right in that top corner. And I think the mental strength to step up at that moment after missing a couple of penalties is remarkable enough. To finish like that when it's up against someone you know so well and who has saved a fair few, I'm sure, in training, I thought it was remarkable. And it says so much. We've praised Prowsey so often over the last 10, 12, 15 years, whatever. He's deserved every sentence of praise. He deserves even more. That was, again, just another moment where I thought, wow, what a guy, what a captain, what a role model. What a great ambassador for Southampton we've got there.
Yeah, fantastic goal. Just quickly, Franny, we'll go to the first goal before the team news comes out. Very much owed to Theo Walcott winning the free kick and then taking advantage as the Spurs defence switched off. Do you want to talk us through that one?
Yeah, he played a pivotal role here, and it was perfectly timed from the team's perspective. Coming out after half-time, after having gone behind, he did well winning the initial free kick, good first touch, and then the guys here, it's all 1 and 2 touch football. And that pass from Lavie was brilliant. Walcott takes a little look before he puts the ball across the 6-yard box for Shay Adams to score. So, yeah, it was a crucial role. And Belvers has mentioned already the impact that Theo's been having on the squad and the team recently. So, yeah, huge moment for him personally, but also the team. And it was such a crucial goal to get for us at that moment of the game to get back on level terms. And you just see in this little clip, he just bends his run just slightly. He doesn't run straight. That enables him to stay on side, has that little glance before he puts the ball in the box. And that's what strikers want. Deliveries like that gives you every chance of scoring goals. And yeah, absolutely thrilled that he's coming to the fore in the moment where we need players to really be standing up and delivering.
Yeah, he certainly has been fantastic of late, and he keeps his side in the starting 11, which is no surprise, really, is it? So let's take a look at that Southampton lineup in full, then, shall we? Two changes today. In goal, it's Gavin Bazunu. The back four: Kyle Walker-Peters, Jan Bednarek. Duje Saleta-Sarr is the man to replace the injured Armel Bella Kotchap, and completing the back line is Roman Perro. In the midfield, it's Stuart Armstrong, our captain James Ward-Prowse, Romeo Lavia and Moi Elianusi, and up top it's Theo Walcott and Sekou Mara, who comes in to replace Shay Adams. The Saints substitutes then are as follows: Alex McCarthy, Lianco, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Ibrahima Diallo, Charlie Alcaraz, Kamaldeen Sulemana, Mislav Orsic, Joe Aribo and Paul Onuachu. So Belvers, let's come to you first then. What do you make of that lineup Ruben Sellers has selected?
So he's stuck with the formation that worked so well against Tottenham, it looks like, with Walcott and Mara up front, the 4-2-2-2, Lavia, James Ward-Prowse in the middle, Armstrong, Moi Elianusi. Moi Elianusi, I spoke to him this week. He is absolutely itching for his first goal of the season. You know, last season he got a few and was looking to kick on this season. I think it's no surprise, while he does get a bit of grief from the fans because he's not producing at that final end product. He's missed a few chances, he's had a few saved and so on. But I don't think it's any great coincidence that he's kept his place over all three managers who've had the Saints job this season, because he does offer a lot more going backwards as well, a lot more defensive solidity, helping Kyle Walker-Peters bomb on than he did certainly when he first arrived. I think it's interesting that Saleta-Sarr's come in. I don't think he would have done if Mohamed Salisu was fit, perhaps, but he has played an awful lot of games at a very good level for Croatia, for example. Him against Danny Ings today could be quite a battle.
Yes, indeed. So, Dad, a couple of enforced changes. What do you make of the starting lineup to take on the Hammers this afternoon?
Yeah, I guess, echoing Belver's thoughts and views, that unsurprising really on the back of what we saw against Tottenham. And that interesting debate about who plays and who plays where is always a fascinating one for everyone. Everyone has that opinion on players. I've been really impressed that we saw that impact that the three substitutions had against Tottenham last week, with Mara coming on, Charlie Alcaraz and Kamaldeen. I mean, Charlie Alcaraz, I know Belvers has touched on him already and how well he's done since he's been at the club, and he's been outstanding. But Kamaldeen as well is another player that I think has really settled into the squad. He's direct, he's quick, he's tricky. His first thought is, can I go forward? Can I take players on? And those kind of players, if they're not starting in the starting 11, can have a huge impact on the game when substitutions are made. And I think that's going to be key for us as well, not just today, but for the rest of the season. Ruben Sellers needs a squad that's fit enough and has enough talent, not just to start an 11, but what players he can have an impact from the bench having on the game as well.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, isn't it? Because, as you mentioned, Dad, that triple change in the 70th minute with Charlie Alcaraz, Sekou Mara and Kamaldeen Sulemana. I mean, they looked fantastic off the bench today. Obviously, Sekou Mara starting. But Belvers, what impact do you think Charlie Alcaraz will have if indeed he does come off the bench today?
Well, I think all three of those had such a wonderful impact against Tottenham, didn't they? Excuse me, coming on just after Spurs had made it 2-1, just before they made it 3-1. Sekou Mara looks a very confident young man to me. Again, we've seen sort of flashes of his brilliance and his potential there. That was a cross where Charlie Alcaraz was in the box alongside Theo Walcott. This one, all three of them involved. I love that moment when Mara is so determined to get the ball, to get the restart again. It's a wonderful header, first of all. And then, he's on the floor when Theo Walcott finishes so well. Look at this determination. Right, we can get back in this. I'm getting up, getting the ball. All involved here again. Alcaraz winning it. And then Sulemana, great strength, great pace, great feet. He makes Pierre-Emile Højbjerg one of the best defensive midfielders in the division. He just leaves him for dead with a tiny little burst of pace. And again, Mara there, wonderful feet again, forcing a really good save from Fraser Forster. And I think it's so important that the manager has clearly said to them, right, I believe in you. I want you to keep pushing forward. I know they were chasing the game at 3-1, but they, heads would have dropped on another occasion. And after another game when they'd gone 2 goals behind, this is a team that hadn't scored very many goals, and yet they seemed to believe that they could score 2 more goals in the final 15 minutes of the game to get back in it, as they did. And it's more remarkable for me when you think it was only 3 days after the Brentford game, and the difference between attacking intent, belief, whatever you want to call it, it's so stark. And I think so much credit has to go to the manager that he's clearly got a lot of trust from the players. He trusts the players as well. They're suddenly a lot more together. They believe as a team, as a unit, as a squad. The players coming off the bench know they've got a real good impact, a real good role to play, that they haven't been left out of the starting 11 because they're doing something wrong. They're looking at various phases and stages of the game and saying, right, in this bit, we think you can have a real impact. And that's what those 3 substitutes all did coming on against Spurs. And, the fact that, we see managers going through all sorts of histrionics on the touchline these days. Ruben Selles seems quite a calming influence. They've been having more of these huddles, haven't they, on the side of the pitch. And clearly he has been saying, right, look, we don't need to change anything. I know we've gone 2 goals down. Keep doing what you're doing. The chances will come. And that's what it showed. And I think today, again, they will have the plan A with the starting 11 against West Ham, but then they'll also have already planned some of these changes as well. Of course, they'll tinker with those and tweak those depending how the game goes. But they'll be he'll have said to some of those players on the bench, Kamaldeen Sulemana, for example, what a great impact substitute he's looking like at the moment. He was thrown in from the start, very soon after arriving in the January window. Now he looks a very different, very dangerous proposition for opponents when he's coming off the bench, running at them. He again is not someone who's short of confidence. So no, I really like this starting 11, and I love the options on the bench as well.
Well, before we switch our focus to the opponents in hand today, West Ham, Franny, I just wanted to ask you, as a player, you were part of a team that got themselves out of trouble late on into a season and got big points when it was needed. That point against Spurs would have felt more than that. How do you think that the dressing room's feeling at the moment?
Yeah, they would have been hugely lifted by that, Steve. I mean, for anyone that was at the game, I think there's been a real shift since Ruben has come in, isn't there? And you don't like to sort of look back and criticise Nathan Jones' time in charge, but there was a real toxic kind of atmosphere in the stadium quite often, and that was completely different. The Tottenham game was huge, and even at 3-1, you always felt Saints were there or in and around the game a little bit, and could easily have gone one of 2 ways. And it was interesting, Bell was saying about the huddles on the touchline a little bit. A lot of people noticed that team huddle that the team had as well when we went 3-1 down, when the players themselves got together in the middle of the pitch. Would have been fascinating to have known what was said at that point, because certainly that seemed to have some sort of impact on the outcome of the game as well. The atmosphere in the stadium was incredible. And yeah, you're right, Steve, that point could go a long way towards our outcome in the final stages of the season. And it certainly felt like more than that. But it's important now that we back that up. In all the times that we were playing as players, when we were trying to struggle in the past, and I've been in teams and groups in that scenario, that there was always that, right, okay, we need to build on it. We can't just have it too sporadic. And we've seen it under Ruben now. Under 6 games in the Premier League, we've won 2, drawn 2, and lost 2. So it's now crucial, especially given our opponents today and where they are on the table, that we maximise on the back of that Tottenham result.
Yeah, well, if there's confidence in the dressing room, there's certainly confidence in the fan base as well. So they've been getting in touch via our social media channels. Liam T says, let's do this. Ian Bevan, let's go Saints. Russ Ward, come on, boys. We need 3 points to get us out of the bottom 3. Also, second... Tully, hard to pronounce this name on YouTube, has said Walcott has done really well recently, both play and team commitment. Yeah, we agree, Theo's done excellent. Stephen Coulson says it will be a full-on battle today. Both teams will be up for this. We need to score first. We don't want to be chasing again, and he thinks it's going to be a 3-2 win to Southampton. Now, Belvers, the last time Saints went to the London Stadium was Boxing Day 2021, and if Stephen wants a 3-2 win today, well, there was a lot to like about that game.
It certainly was 3-2 as well, wasn't it? it's a funny one because I think Saints won the first visit to the London Stadium back in 2015-16, something like that, and then had a pretty wretched record. West Ham would score plenty of goals, always win 3-0, 3-1, something like that. So Saints went there on Boxing Day not feeling a great deal of pressure because West Ham were expected to win. And what a start. Moya Elyounoussi, lovely half volley on the edge of the box there after only 8 minutes or so. West Ham, they'd been in the top four, I think, pretty much all season. They brought on old boy Mikel Antonio, who, of course, came back to haunt them, and Saints didn't let their heads drop. They fought back again, and this undoubted penalty. What was all the debate about? Amanda Breuer charging into the box, fouled about 3 or 4 times by Craig Dawson, eventually going down in the area. I mean, look, it's this one when he takes his leg out completely. That's why Kevin Friend went to the screen and said, yep, it's a penalty. And again, James Ward-Prowse, we haven't seen that as often as we'd like, but a beautiful penalty, great power, low into the corner this time, and the golf swing celebration. The defending wasn't great that day. Again, the build-up to that, Elyounoussi had been fouled and the referee hadn't given it. And when it was 2-2, you sort of thought, oh, it's inevitable. West Ham are going to go on and win this. And then up popped Jan Bednarek, sort of exercising a demon or two last season, because he had this remarkable record of every time he scored, it was in a 3-2 defeat. And he would always score to make it 1-0 or even 2-0 to Saints in that run. But last season, 4 goals, all 4 contributing vital goals at vital stages of matches that earned Saints 10 points, I think it was, 10 points out of 12. So if he could pop up again today with a crucial goal, I'd be very, very happy. But yeah, I think it's interesting to think that last season Saints felt, well, look, we don't ever really get anything at the London Stadium, so the pressure's off. Today, the pressure's off again, in a sense, in that there's more pressure on West Ham because they are not used to being in the bottom 3 this season. They, had such a good season last season. Now they've slipped right into trouble, and that fan base at the London Stadium, they can make their opinions heard.
Yeah, hopefully a similar result this afternoon. And Dad, let's reflect on when West Ham visited St Mary's Stadium back in October. Of course, that one finished 1-1. But West Ham not too happy about Southampton's goal.
No, and I think when we see the footage back, certainly from a Saints perspective, we didn't mind at all. I think there was complaints about Kyle Walker-Peters' throw-in and his foot being over the line, and I'd have to agree with that. And then, the referee getting in the way of Jared Bowen as the ball fell to him, and Roman Perot stepped up and did his thing. Here's Kyle Walker-Peters with his throw-in, his foot clearly over the line, which the officials never picked up. One of those things that can go for and against you. It went for us, and then again, within seconds, there's that scenario where the referee probably obstructed Jared Bowen a little bit. But what we did see was Roman Perot do what he's done on a number of occasions. We're not used to seeing goal-scoring fullbacks or left fullbacks that wear the number 15 in a Saints shirt, but I'm delighted that he did it, and he's capable of doing that as well, albeit with the assistance of a little bit of a deflection. But I'm sure all of us wouldn't mind how the points come if it means a deflection or getting a little bit of assistance through a decision from the officials today. As long as we maximise the 3 points, that's all that matters.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, before we come to you both for your final thoughts ahead of kickoff, we should mention the fact that our Southampton under-18s are also in action at the London Stadium this week. They play West Ham in the FA Youth Cup semi-final on Thursday night, Steve. We're looking forward to that one.
Yeah, we are indeed. Now, it will be the first time that they could reach the semi-final since they reached the final of the Youth Cup back in 2005. And Belvers, how great would it be to see the Saints youngsters go all the way, a la Gareth Bale's crop?
Yeah, that was a fantastic squad of players. Theo Walcott was right at the centre of things in the final against Ipswich. It was a 2-legged affair. I was at the home game that finished 2-2. I think Walcott won a penalty and set up the second goal. Didn't go to the second leg, which unfortunately didn't go Saints' way, a 1-0 defeat. But, the other names in there, Adam Lallana was in that squad, and David McGoldrick, Leon Best, players like that. The superstitious among us might look at that and think, 2005, the last time they got to the FA Youth Cup final, the same season that the first team got relegated. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. And we'll also gloss over the fact that they lost 7-1 yesterday, I think. But look at this crop of youngsters. There are some terrific players in here. You know, you're going to see goals here from Dom Ballard. He scored a hat-trick against Coventry. Jimmy J. Morgan, perhaps we'll gloss over him, but Tyler Dibbling as well, 2 in this goal in this game at Villa Park. You know, they're performing on big stages, and getting through to the FA Youth Cup semi-finals is not easily done at all. And you know, Kamari Doyle in there as well, Dom Ballard again scoring against Fulham, and you know, there are wonderful parallels between, you know, the crop of 2005 and this crop. You know, there've been a few murmurings, a few criticisms over the past sort of perhaps 5, 6, 7 seasons of the number of players coming through from the academy into the first team. That we've had a couple, and a couple have sort of come in and then drifted away again. You know, there's some real talent in here. You're going to see some tremendous. You know, there was a real Bale-like free kick from Doyle against Preston in the last round to get through to the semi-final. I think, you know, it's a wonderful achievement. I hope they're very well supported, albeit away at the London Stadium in the semi-finals. I hope they can turn over West Ham as well. Although, you know, if it's a choice of the two, I'd definitely take the 3 points today. But, you know, if Saints can continue, you know, it's not an exact science. You're never going to get, you know, a wonderful crop of 5, 6, 7 players coming through the academy every single year. That's just impossible. But the fact that Saints do consistently, every 2, 3, 4 years, produce players who go on to have wonderful careers throughout the Football League, I think is extraordinary, particularly when you think of the competition for young talent from Premier League and even European clubs these days. You know, Southampton are rightly very proud of this conveyor belt that they have, this reputation they have, and it looks very much like they've got another very exciting young group of players who can be playing in the first team in the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, that's for sure. And of course, we're all wishing them all the very best of luck for that match on Thursday. All right, then, let's come to you both for your final thoughts ahead of kickoff. Dad, will come to you first. 3 points today, not even enough to take Southampton out of that relegation zone, whereas West Ham could move out of that bottom 3 with a win. So a lot at stake here. Which way do you see this one going?
Well, this one, Kenz, is the first of 4 teams that we will be playing the rest of the season now that are in the bottom half of the table. It's a game we can't afford to lose. You know, we've got to take at least a point from this, but the time has come now to start taking maximum points from these kind of fixtures. When you look at West Ham, 1 place above us, it is so tight down there. And we saw yesterday how the impact a win can have for somebody like Bournemouth, where they leapt up the table to something like 15th, I think it may have been. We need the 3 points, and we've got to go there. We've got to do a job. I hate to say that West Ham United are the only team that haven't scored in the first 15 minutes of a game this season. So let's hope that start will continue today for West Ham, and the home supporters get onto their back, as Belver's touched on. You know, it can be a difficult crowd to play in front of, and it will be a pressurised game for them today as much as it is us. So we need to go there, do a real professional job, start well, defend solidly, but still offer an awful lot going forward in attack. So I think there'll be some goals in the game. So from a prediction point of view, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Saints win.
Okay, 2-1 Saints win for Dad. Belvers, what are your thoughts then? I mean, both teams have lacked consistency of late, but of course they'll both be hoping for maximum points this afternoon.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been to their 2 most recent Premier League games. The woeful 4-0 defeat at Brighton. Brighton were very good, but second half chasing the game, West Ham didn't manage a single shot, let alone a shot on target. And then I was at the Villa game at home, and I mentioned on the show last time that I thought, you know, they're clearly a lot better at home. Maybe it's their home form that's going to sort of pull them out of trouble. And then you look at the fixtures, you know, after today they play, I've got it written down here somewhere, Newcastle, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United before they finish against Leeds. So they will be feeling pressure already. Like Franny said, they don't tend to start games very well, and their crowd can often be tricky, you know, to not the most supportive, say. So I think whether that early storm, and if there is a storm, and then really heap even more pressure on them is the game plan, or one part of the game plan for Saints. I think, they've got some excellent players there. We all know about their great players, but they're also struggling to get the best out of a lot of them. Scamacca and Paqueta, he played midfield for Brazil at the World Cup, but they don't seem to know how to use them. So my one worry from the Saints' point of view is that, we've had other games like the Brentford one recently, games against the relegation 6-pointers as well, the Forest and Wolves at home, Leeds away and so on, which particularly if they've come after a good result against one of the bigger teams, they've then not followed it up. And, everyone's sort of been feeling up and for the chances of survival, and then it's sort of fallen flat. But I really believe in Ruben Selles. I think he's done an incredible job, given that this is his first managerial role. To turn it around the way he has done so far is extraordinary. I think, I think we are going to see momentum building, something building on that great performance against Tottenham today. I was going to say 2-1 as well, but I'm going to say Danny Ings is not going to get a look in, and it's going to be 2-0 to Saints.
All right, good stuff. Well, Belvers, Franny, thank you so much for joining us on Saints Live. Less than 40 minutes to go until kick-off at the London Stadium between the Premier League's bottom two. But before we depart, we'll give a final say to the Saints fans tuned in. Gary Millard has said, we need this win. It could define our season. Just need to get off the bottom. Also, David Emblin had said, we have to win. It's that simple by any means. He wants 15 points from 10. Thinks that's the minimum we need to stay up. And also Nigel Crockford says, a big game today. Let's go Saints. He still believes we can remain in the Premier League. Well, either way, we'll all be back for the final whistle, where Belvers and Franny will be giving us their post-match reaction and analysis. So do enjoy the game, and we'll see you then.
Bye for now.